Welcome. You are listening to The Travel Winds, hosted by Pete Kotzbach. This is a weekly interview show about people who travel for work and all the ups and downs that go along with it. Each episode includes a variety of discussions with athletes, business people, musicians, influencers, entertainers, and even regular folks from around the world. Thanks for listening. Here we go.
Welcome to the show today. My guest is Noel Carroll. How are you today, Noel?
I'm doing great, Peter. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing excellent.
Yeah.
Am I saying the name correctly?
Yeah,
Okay.
Perfectly. It sounds all Christmassy.
That's what I was going with.
Noel Carroll. It's a family name actually. It's my grandpa's name. And then my uncle has the same name, and my dad decided that I had to be called Noel also. And my mom thought it was kind of ridiculous that the first name was Noel, which is spelled, of course, Noel, N-O-E-L.
Yeah.
The last name is Carroll. So she made my middle name Christopher.
No,
like Kris Kringle. Yeah. So I've got a fully
you're all in for Christmas
holiday.
time.
Yeah, exactly. My birthday's in March though, so I don't know quite how it works.
I wonder if you could change that. No, probably not.
Yeah, well, at this point, you gotta go for it.
I identify as someone that was born on December 25th.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's my identification. Perfect.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you're the CEO of Biofriendly.
I am. Yeah.
Which is an awesome company. I did my research as much as I could because it's out of my realm, but I love the idea of it. It's a family business, right? So
so it's sort of, yes, in some ways, sort of, and in other ways, no. So it was founded by my uncle and then his two brothers are like, my dad was the other, but my uncle's kind of the main founder. They're Aussies who've been inventing products since the 1970s, basically. It started off with automatic doors. So like they loved watching Star Trek as kids, and so they liked how the doors would slide open and closed. And so at the time, it would be you'd step on a mat and then the door would swing open. And they thought, no, it should be like in Star Trek. Let's make a door that slides open. And then my other uncle, Noel, when I was talking before, he actually invented the infrared sensor that kind of goes up at the top and bleeps, and then you walk up to that, and then that causes it to slide open. That's where they got their start, and then they moved to the U.S. Back in the 76. I was born here. I was the first American in the family, and then from there, it's a bunch of different inventions. Oil water separator was their first kind of environmental one. So that the idea of that was on offshore oil platforms. You'd have they'd suck up the oil out of the ocean or out of the ground below the ocean, and then dump what they call produced water, which is water that has oil in it over the sides, and that was killing all the fish and marine life. So they came up with basically a separator, a spinning device that would separate the two, and then it's kind of the industry standard on those platforms, and that puts clean water out for the fish, and then you can reproduce the oil. So that was sort of the first kind of idea. And then from there, they have another, they've got a bunch of stuff, but Biofriendly basically that got started with an additive called Green Plus. And Green Plus is basically a product that reduces carbon emissions by 7%. So we have a UN verification for that. And so we sell that to oil companies to meet emissions regulations. And we work with also like private fleets and cities and state governments and things like that to sort of work out how can you meet your carbon emission goals by reducing some CO2 in the fuel.
So it's just an additive that they add in as they're filling up the gas tank.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then so I actually came in when my uncle unfortunately passed just recently, and when he was kind of getting older. I was in entertainment before this, believe it or not. So I had actually very little to do with the business. The reason I say it's kind of a family business is because there's also a bunch of they went and raised a bunch of money to do it.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of shareholders and a bunch of people kind of involved in that. And so it's more than just the family that's sort of in that. But yeah, my brother, who was also one of the inventors of the product, he and our chairman, Jose Nino, they asked me to kind of switch over from where I used to make movies and like web series and commercials and things like that in Hollywood, if I could kind of switch from running that company to taking this for a little while. So I jumped over and we've kind of changed the business a little bit since then.
Okay.
But we're so now I'm doing this for a little bit to help kind of keep it going for a bit, and then we'll see. I may go back to entertainment later, but we'll find out.
See, that's what I want to talk to you about specifically, because I've had different careers. Not just like, I switched from this industry. I mean, complete industry change.
Yeah.
How hard or difficult or easy was that for you?
So I think in some ways it was really hard because it's very different, right?
Yeah.
It's a very technical business. It's very, very science based. It's more on the kind of engineering math side of the brain in general. Whereas before,
Creatively.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I got my start with my entertainment partners on. We had a web series, a stupid web show called Good Cops,
Stupid web show.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It was a show about these three idiot cops that would use faulty logic and explosions to solve crimes that nobody cares about until you find out at the end that the explosions were necessary, their logic was great, and that the crime was the crime of the century that they solved, and you have some fun along the way. That went really well. We sold that show to Warner's digital gaming arm at the time, called Machinima, and then they funded a whole lot more of those. So we made more of that show, and then they also funded a series called Tumbleweed, which was like a companion piece to a video game called Red Dead Redemption, which is pretty popular. And so that also did incredibly well. And then from there, we did some like little comedy shows, and then a bunch of different stuff. Got into commercial work, and then Shoreline Entertainment approached us then to make our first movie, which is called I Had a Bloody Good Time at House Harker, which is kind of a cult like favorite in the sort of horror comedy community. And so that also went really well. And it was actually right when that finished that I got hit up to do this. So my partners are still doing work like in Disney and some other things, and I'll get back to it at some point. But this was kind of a, like I say, a way to help out the family for a little bit. But the thing that makes it kind of tough, this is a totally long-winded answer to your question.
No, I like it.
is that the business, because it was so focused on like this product Green Plus and on things that are more about like invention and engineering and things like that, it didn't suit my skill set as well as more promotion, marketing, creativity. So there's a couple things we did. One is I definitely let my brother, who I kind of run it with, like he focuses more on the inventions, on the new stuff, because we have some new stuff in development to help the environment. I definitely focus more on the sales and on the marketing, but also I launched a new kind of division of the company called Biofriendly Planet. And the purpose of Biofriendly Planet, it's basically a network. It's like an environmental entertainment hub. Yeah. You can go to biofriendlyplanet.com. It's kind of the quickest way to find it. And we launched a podcast called the Biofriendly Podcast, which, I've got some podcast listeners here. If you feel like checking out something, it's about the environment. We do that, but our approach on the environment, the way I kind of wanted to focus and structure it, was to keep the energy away from being mean, to stay away from browbeating people for not doing enough for the environment, for being so extreme that you're off-putting, and to really be more about like how can we get people to be interested in it, get people excited about it, and feel like they're welcome, so they can learn a bit more about it, because I think that it's become so that space has become so fractured and like competitive and angry, that people who probably would care about the environment are afraid to even look at it because they just don't want anything to do with environmentalists. And environmentalists are so angry about things not being done fast enough that they don't really want to talk or approach people who are maybe interested either. So the idea is like, let's be that middle ground.
I think you're dead on with that.
Yeah. So that's been working really well. The podcast has taken off.
Yeah.
We're among the top life science podcasts on iTunes. And then the website itself is grown quite massive. I mean, it's really, we get a ton of visitors, and it goes really well. I think people are enjoying the content we give and enjoying our approach. And so that's been sort of the way I can keep the creativity.
That's your creative outlet.
Yeah, exactly. And I brought in my old partner from Good Cops, Jacob Givens, to kind of run that sort of division of the company, which he does really well. Yeah.
So you are able to merge both.
A little bit. To keep, I guess, I didn't really want to stop the entertainment stuff necessarily, but there was kind of a need. I was needed at the time to help out because of what had happened sort of with my uncle at the time. Yeah. So I was like, well, I got to find a way to make this still fun, still engaging and entertaining for me.
I think that's really key. I mean, I came from a corporate background.
Yeah.
And now I sell Western clothing.
Yeah.
I mean, totally random, but it worked out because my largest account is a very corporate account, publicly traded, the whole money investments and all that. So it kind of worked out that I had the background I had.
Yeah.
So
sometimes, I mean, that's the thing, right? Because business is business. And so everywhere there's crossover everywhere, right? Like selling a movie or a TV show is no different than selling an additive. The product's just different. Like what you're talking about is different. How you're selling it, who you're talking to, that might be different, but the basic things you're trying to do are the same. So in that regard, it's not too bad, right? Not too different. So that's good.
Did you go to trade shows in the entertainment industry, and do you go to the ones now for Biofriendly? And how different are those?
In entertainment, it's funny, particularly in Hollywood, and I know you don't live too far away from the city where you are, but it's the trade. It's not really trade shows as much as it's events. Right? Like you got to go to this. You got to go to this party or this premiere or this whatever. There's events. Yeah. There's the event after event, and you go to the events, and at the events you walk around and you talk to people, and you meet people, you make friends, and you talk about what you're doing. You listen a lot to them talking about what they're doing, and sort of in that way, it's similar to the trade shows, just because there's a lot of meeting people and talking to people.
Yeah.
But it's different because there's often some kind of gala or something happening, and there's people on a stage,
a separate reason,
an award for something, and that can sometimes, get in the way of it. But there's also a lot of, I guess there's a lot of booze in both. You talk about traveling. Probably one of the complications of traveling is just trying to keep yourself healthy while you're surrounded by people who want to party. Yeah, but so there's a lot of partying too in both.
I'm jumping on an airplane tomorrow morning. And now I think about immunity. Now that I'm old, I'm thinking, okay, what immunity? I got to take my vitamins. I'm going to take this.
Yeah.
Which before I never thought about that.
That's hilarious. Yeah, my little supplement box that I now have to have things all. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's funny. And that gets worse when you travel, I think, right? Because what I found, particularly if I have a lot of trips in a row, is you're sitting down that much, just being seated that long at my age, it starts to be an issue with the back. I'll come home from a long trip and I have to lay down because my back's been thrown out because I've been sitting down too much. It just isn't that good for you. So I have a standing desk. I'm at a standing desk right now to try to keep myself.
I'm on the ball.
Okay.
Yeah. So it engages my core as I move a little bit, because I used to just start slumping in the chair.
Yeah.
And now I kind of have to sit up because I'm on the ball. You can.
You find that, does that work pretty well? Is it keeping you?
Seems to be. It's better than I feel better than the chair.
Yeah.
Than a regular chair, an office chair that I had for 30 years. So trying something different.
May have to invest in a ball. It's a good idea.
It can't hurt. I figured,
Yeah, there it is.
It was, let's try that,
Awesome.
I got to keep that. Well, so I drive a lot I'm either on a plane, I'm driving. So I'm always sitting, rounded shoulders. I'm at the computer with rounded shoulders.
Yeah.
So anything I can do to kind of keep the posture straight.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes with the desk, I'll actually raise it up a little bit. So I'm looking up at it instead of sitting down, because that's the other thing. Like, you're right. They're like,
you always roll forward.
Your whole life swatching.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Yep.
and like I said, in my 30s and even my 40s, I was like, whatever. Now, mid 50s, I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. Well, you're doing better than me. I'm mid 40s, and the back thing really just hit me this year. Yeah, where I'm like, why does my back keep slipping out? This is a disaster.
Mine's my shoulder.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because I'm doing this driving a lot. I'm on the mouse, so I just and I sleep weird. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, and then even at home in LA, right? And I'm driving the kids to gymnastics or to some golf thing or some friend party or school or whatever. Like you're always in the car in the city.
That's part I don't miss. My daughters have graduated college, and they're
nice.
One's married, one's doing their own thing. So that's why I have the podcast. I have extra time now.
Oh, lucky, man. Yeah, I've got a 16-year-old. So she's now going to start driving herself, which is good.
Yeah.
And then a 13-year-old boy. So they're
you're in it.
I'm in the middle of it. Yeah, in the heat of it. But
I think that was probably from like 8 to about 15 was rough. Especially
it's a lot. It's
14, 15, they thought they were good, adult enough to do things, and you're like, nah, not really.
Yeah, you gotta live that, play that balance, right? What am I gonna challenge them on, and what am I just gonna be like, let them learn?
How do you? So you're in the Los Angeles area.
Yeah.
How do you balance? Since we're talking about it,
Sure.
work life, keeping the wife happy, keeping everybody, friends, family, you got brothers, parties, anniversaries, and then, oh yeah, work.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
I work too much. I work a little too much. And I think that's, I think just to kind of start off, there's sometimes I'll say to myself, well, this is a period of time where I'm supposed to work hard, right? There's that pocket of your life between 30 and 50 or 30 and 60, I guess, where you're supposed to really get after it and get all that done, so that hopefully after 60, you've got something to retire with, or to stop working so hard with.
Okay.
And also the expenses of just children, like you're mentioning, like it really kicks up right now too. So
just wait till college.
Oh, well, I know, right? That's been, yeah. I know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin it for you.
Yeah, no, we're gearing up for that, right? Trying to just do better and better, but it's tough, right? So I kind of justify in my own head when I'm away and doing that. It's like, well, it's for that, but there is, what I try to do is when I'm home, particularly from a long trip, is to actually lay out some time that I'm not going in. I'm not working on work during that period. I'm going to be home for a little bit, and while I'm home, I'm going to spend time with my family. When I do get home, I put my phone on vibrate, and people get angry that I'm working with sometimes because I don't answer the phone quick enough, or because I don't get back on the text right away, or because I don't, and I do that honestly on purpose to kind of almost train people who are calling me. It's like, well, during
you may or
most
may not
of the
get
time
them.
I'm there, but when I'm not there, it might be a minute because I'm with
because
my
it's okay.
Now. Yeah, I get, because I don't want them to forget that I'm alive. Right? Okay. The moment it's like, who are you again? Yeah. So you do have to spend time. So when I'm with them, I'm with them, and I think that's the way I try to make it work, is to actually spend that time really being there and not being distracted, not being at work, not like letting work go just for that moment and to be away from it. So I do try to separate the two. My only kind of frustration I'm still working on is that there's just I'm at work a lot.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just talking to somebody about how before cell phones, like I would go on a 3-hour drive to a sales call with no cell phone, no pager. So it was like I had 3 hours of my life. Like no one, there was no bothering, there's no emails. I would get to a place, call back to the office, say, hey, what's going on? Anything happen? They'd be like, no, you're good. I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Now it's just a constant.
Yeah. And everything's an emergency, every little thing. It's like, because you're reachable, everything can be everyone's problem. And, I think that some of that has to be kind of trained out of people a little bit. That's something actually in the office. It's like you have the capacity to solve some of these things, like you're, this is your spot, this is your job, you can do this.
You're a little younger, so maybe I don't know if you ever dealt with pagers, but we had to come up with codes, because I'd be on the road and I'd be like in Malibu on the 101.
Yeah.
And I would get, hey, call the office.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is it 911? Is it 811? We started categorizing the calls. So I'm like, if I got to get off the freeway, it's a pain in the butt. I got to get my calling card. I got to go find a payphone.
Right. Calling cards. I remember those too. Yep.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's kind of everything's a 911,
Yeah.
I get the CEO of our company's emailing me on Sunday. Hey, make sure to, talk to your big customer tomorrow. And okay.
I know.
I have customers. I know it's your day off, but can you look this up and see if you have it in stock? It's like, okay.
Yeah, I know it is. It's a new world. It's a new world. And that's also a balance too, right? Because there are, because that's the new world, because that's the new expectation. You also can't always just say, I'm not home now, I'm busy now. Well, sometimes the thing goes on, they know they can reach you. And in order to provide good customer service, you sometimes have to jump in and get it done. But, I try to live like it's the 90s.
I was going to say, I'm like, I might have to start taking that up,
Yeah, because people do get used to it, actually, particularly on in your own team, right? It's like when people in your own team kind of know, it's like, well, you can text him, but you can email, you can even call him, but he'll get back to you when he's able to get back to you. So don't expect an immediate response. I look at it. If it's actually an emergency and there's something going on, then obviously I'll respond. But most of the time, I'll wait. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
Your team might not like it, but I like that.
What's that? It's been good though, because now they're self-sufficient. Like they fix problems. Like they handle
Well, it
things.
makes them think, right, before they reach out.
Yeah. Can I solve this?
Yeah.
Can
Well,
I handle this?
it's kind of like parenting, right?
Yeah.
If your kids are always, oh, can you do this? Can you open this? I'm like, hey, give it a shot. I think you can open that one.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting balance in parenting, right? It's like, when do you just let them fail? When is it okay for them to fail? And it's my wife and I, we've always tried to say, well, safety is the thing, right? So like, if the failure is a fork in an electric socket, well, then probably I'm going to stop that from happening.
I'm going to slow that roll. Yeah.
Right. But falling down, tripping on something, like there's little mistakes that kids make. Like they learn more from the pain of bumping the knee than from being told, don't bump your knee. So sometimes you got to let them do it.
Where I got into trouble with that was the college years, because I'm sitting there going, I always use the analogy, they're Thelma and Louise heading towards the Grand Canyon, and I know there's no bridge there.
Yeah.
But they don't know it yet.
Right.
And they're running right towards it. And I'm like,
right.
I knew I need to let them figure out that there's no crossing there. Yeah. And I think it's so easy for me to go, hey, no. There's a bridge a mile down the road. So it's tough.
Yeah. Well, and when they're not next to you, right? Like when they want to go away. My daughter's already, she's a gymnast, so she's already looking at schools. You have to start, she's a junior, but you have to start a little earlier with that. And so she's, we've traveled to a couple different places to check out schools, and not all of them are, particularly in gymnastics. Not everybody does gymnastics. So the only close by school is UCLA, and she doesn't really want to go to UCLA. So it's, we're looking a lot in Northern California. We're looking in the East Coast. We're looking in the Midwest. We're looking, all over the place. So it's, you realize that she's probably not going to be that close, which also adds some worry to the whole thing. But I don't know. Hopefully they've learned a few things before they go there, but we'll see.
But because I had one that stayed home and went to Northridge, and the other one went to Towson back in Maryland.
Oh,
so
nice.
It was kind of the both. I had the one close by and the one kind of.
How was the difference? Like how was that?
They're a year apart. The older one went back to Maryland. It was funny when she'd call me and say, "Hey, my car's from 5 feet of snow. What do I do?" And I'd be like, "Shuffle."
Get out.
Get up early and start shoveling. I go, what's everyone else doing? Shoveling. I'm like, there you go.
There it is.
Then Northridge, because she majored in screenwriting.
Okay.
And she had some very cool internship jobs in the industry. So that worked out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But you have to let them Thelma and Louise up once in a while.
You do. I mean, that's they. Well, what was that?
I have 2 daughters, so that's why I use that analogy.
Sure. Yeah, my brother has 3. He's got a shirt that says, you can't, or just, what's this? It's something like, I'm not afraid if you have 3 daughters, Yeah. So
exactly.
I hear you. I have one of each. So it's a, different kinds of problems, I suppose. But you worry about them, but you also have to let them, I firmly believe you do have to let them grow up. You have to let them learn. There was somewhere, I don't remember, again, my brother probably telling me about the, like with playgrounds, that they had to kind of peel back a little bit on the safety, because they made them so safe that kids didn't know they couldn't just jump off of, like just jump off of anything and land, it would be soft, because it's usually soft. So, which kind of, it makes sense, right? Like you've got to, it's that balance, like you have to have a safe playground, but it's got to be real enough that they learn.
There's not going to be rubber mats everywhere in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's good. I'll have to reuse them, come up with a meme or something for that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Biofriendly being, it's kind of is it a trending business right now because of the climate change and all the talk? And obviously
we're doing very well. We were growing. Just like everyone else, the pandemic, it hit us hard, and so everything. It was an interesting time. Everything kind of got sales went down. Obviously, revenues went. Things got more difficult.
Yeah, driving.
Yeah, exactly. Less people driving, so there's less sales to be made, and then also anybody companies that would use the product were so kind of in shell shock and confusion, and they weren't working in the office, and they didn't know who to. all the confusion meant that people were like, we can't even talk about this right now. We can't even look at it.
Yeah.
So a lot of things we had moving really well, because it's an international business. We work with companies all over the country, all the world, excuse me. They were just kind of like, sorry, wait. And so we were sort of stuck trying to figure out what to do. And that's actually when we grew Biofriendly Planet quite a lot, was because we were like, we got to keep doing, like, we can't just not work on things. So, and then we kept, you keep on the phones, and you keep in touch and make sure everything's going well with the customers. And then now things have opened up again. I mean, they've really been taking off. Things are moving really nicely, and we're getting a lot more done. It's definitely a growth industry. I mean, you see how much money is going into just the environment in general. I mean, this recent bill that passed is, even more money going towards this kind of thing. I think that one of the things we've learned with Biofriendly Planet is that it's not just climate change. Right? That people talk a lot about climate change, global warming, like that's the thing, and that is a thing for sure. But it's also kind of a nice excuse to not solve problems, as odd as that sounds, right? Because there's a lot more going on than just climate change, and there's a lot that's happening because of it that requires technology today to fix. That won't be like it's happening whether you want it to or not. The ocean is growing increasingly acidic just because there's more carbon in it, and that is part of what's killing off coral reefs. That's part of what's creating a lot of the issues for fish and for water temperature and things like that. And that stuff can be solved. Like these are things that can be solved pretty easily with some tech, right? With some attention on it. But it's not necessarily looked at. Like, I think it's always looked at as the only answer is we've got to get an electric car, and then there aren't really, or we've got to put solar panels up. We've got to put, and that's all fine. But I think that's part of a much larger equation. Because if you just do all those things, you're creating actually other problems that you have other problems of just resources, right? Because the batteries aren't quite there yet. Electric cars are fun. I love them, and I think that that's potential to be a very a much better thing for the environment in time. But at present, until we kind of do a better job of sourcing our batteries, make better batteries that last longer, that use less of some of the ingredients needed, right? They're gonna be an issue as well. So like it has been interesting to be in kind of that environmental side of the business, because you just learn a little more about kind of the next problem. Like what problems are our solutions going to cause, and then how do we fix those problems, and then where do we need to put our energy, and where do we need to put our focus on actually making it a better planet in a much more wholesome way than just climate change, because there's more going on. There's microplastics are a disaster.
Yeah.
Our soil degradation is like honestly a real problem. Like if we keep farming the way we do, we're going to be in trouble whether we die in this potential hellfire that people are scared of or not. Like we'll be starving. So there's a lot of other things that need to be kind of confronted and looked at that get ignored. Honestly, they kind of go under the radar a little bit, just because you can have this big siren alarm of climate change. So
it's kind of like I always tell people in my commercial real estate days, you start doing soil research and groundwater tables, and what we did in the 40s, 50s, 60s into the 60s, before the EPA was founded in the 70s, we were just as bad as everybody else. I mean, we were there are areas of Torrance that are Superfund sites, meaning if you live there, you got cancer.
Right.
Literally.
It's crazy.
And so the government literally had to buy those homes and pay those people off. And then there's no homes there.
And clear it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's still happening in other countries, because all of our manufacturing, that's why I always tell people, they go, oh, our manufacturers got to come back. It'll never come back until you have EPA in Mexico, India, China, Taiwan, because all the things we did with our solvents, just dumping in literally into a hole into the ground.
Yeah.
They're doing that.
Right.
And that's why they're making our genes and our dyes and all that.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's another thing that we sometimes talk about on the show is we've to some degree exported our emissions, right? Like so US is doing a lot better than it ever. Like US is doing great, frankly, compared to where it was, and the reduction of what we've actually done in terms of emissions. I mean, we've improved massively, better than anyone else.
Yeah.
But most of that is
it
because
went somewhere.
we sent those to China. Like now, so now now those emissions are they're still in the planet. They're still getting them. I mean, the ozone layer is opening up a new hole, because when the emissions were done here, we were worried about what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Yeah.
We were able to do it better and then close that up, but they don't care.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think that, unfortunately, I mean, this is kind of like the cycle of growth for every nation, every society, is they almost have to realize, again, it's kind of like we're talking about kids. They almost have to realize on their own, like, oh crap, we're killing ourselves. And then they improve their regulations, and they have an EPA, and they start to worry about it, and then they do it better. And it's a frustrating process to watch. And I think one of the reasons, we talked earlier about environmentalists being frustrated and militant sometimes. I think sometimes that's why. I think that's like to give some understanding for them. It's that they look at all this and go like, this isn't getting any better. We're just screwing it up somewhere else, or we're making this mistake or that mistake. I think it gets frustrating, and that's why they kind of don't know what to do. But
But I'm with you, because I'm trying to think. I think you could probably go to everybody every single person in the U.S. and say, do you want the environment to be better or worse? And they would all say better.
Yes,
like
100%.
99.9% of the people all want it to do something. So how do you get that message across?
Everybody in the world
wants it to be better.
I won't say everybody in the world, because there's always somebody, but basically everybody in the world loves their kids.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a pretty,
you hope.
Well, they don't always like their kids, but but they love their kids, right? And like I said, it's not everybody. There's some folks out there, and so be it. But enough of the everybody, enough of that everybody number loves their kids that they don't want to see, they don't want to see a planet that is decimated. They don't. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to give their kids, kids a place.
So how do we get everyone on board?
Right, but we can't do it this way, because we can't beat each other's throats and expect that we're going to agree. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. We've got to find some logic. And I think also on the people who don't want to look at it, like we do have to find a way to get them to look at it. But the people who are looking at it, I think, too closely, you have to also take a look at where we got it wrong, right? Because we don't have it right everywhere. It's not. I think there's this feeling like, well, this is it. These are the facts. This is what it is. This is what I've been told. There is nothing else. Discussion's over. Screw you, basically. And that really,
it's always changing though. Yeah.
Well, if we went completely 100% into solar panels, battery farms, windmills, electric cars, everything that way, we'd all be dead.
Yeah.
We'd all be dead. We'd all be dead because it takes so much land at the way the batteries are currently constructed, and the solar panels are currently constructed.
And wind, and the wind farms.
Well, and exactly. It takes so much space to create enough energy for us to continue to live the way we've grown accustomed, right? Yeah. With all of the devices we have and everything. Like we use so much energy. And then we'd have the waste, because none of it is environmentally friendly stuff. Right? What all this technology is made of, we haven't got there yet. We figured out how to make it. We haven't figured out how to make it in a renewable way. So that's a problem, right? Or a sustainable way, I should say. That's a problem. If we don't admit that, if we don't look at that's a problem, and we have to confront that problem, then we'll never solve it. Does that mean that these technologies are bad? No. Does it mean that these aren't part of the solution? Absolutely not. These are part of the solution.
Yeah.
They're 100% part of the solution. These are great technologies. And we need to focus on making these technologies better and better and better and better and better, so that they can be part of, I think, the wholesome solution. But we can't just go throwing away. We're big on nuclear energy at Biofriendly.
Yeah.
Like, nuclear energy is the most energy dense source that we have, right? And it is completely zero emission. And the way that we can make it now it's
totally different. Yeah,
it's totally different. It's just not you're not gonna have the problems you used to have with it. It is the best way for us to make energy. It's the best way for us currently to make energy, and we'll get better. We'll have better ones in the future. That's the way humans work, right? But we can't just throw that out and say we're not doing that. I mean,
but we have, at least here in California.
Look at what Germany's done.
Wow.
Germany's hosed. They're right now in a position where they're trying to stand up to Russia, and they can't do it because they don't have energy independence. They need their natural gas. So, and that is a self-imposed problem that Germany gave themselves, because they had plenty of nuclear energy. They had the options to solve this problem and be independent and stand up to Russia if they wanted to. Now they can't. And that's just a one example. Like that's a foreign policy example of why you don't want to shut off that option. California, thankfully, we've saved Diablo Canyon, and hopefully we'll turn it around. But California used to be pretty good with nuclear energy. And now,
San
Onofre's gone. Yeah, I mean we're not looking at the whole puzzle very well, I think.
So you're an environmental guy, so I'm going to ask you. This is an article I read that the water in Lake Mead it's not being dissipated because of our water usage as much as we need the electricity that's created from going through the turbines at the dam at Lake Mead, at Hoover Dam.
Yeah, well, if the water level gets too low, then they can't.
But we need the electricity because we've gotten rid of San Onofre and some of the other, in Redondo, we got rid of the AES power plant, because we don't need it. But now all of a sudden we need power. So they have to run that Lake Mead dam to keep the turbines going for electricity.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, we have so many problems with energy in California. We really do.
We're special.
We tried to, I think the problem was that we were more, as a state, we were more interested in signaling that we were doing the right thing than actually solving the problem the right way. I do think that I agree with that. There's some energy being put into fixing that now. I do think that we're realizing that as a state, and it's going to get better over the next 10 years. I think that at some point, finally, it dawned on the people in our government that, okay, we blew this, right? We have a whole, so long as the source of energy is under 5% of our total, you can call a source of energy other energy sources. Okay. So there's a whole loophole where we have other energy sources, which make up, like, don't quote me on the number, but it's something like 25% of our energy it's coal. It's coal. It's just coming from somewhere else. They're calling it other energy sources. I mean, we're still
dependent.
Yeah, we're just not doing it right. And thankfully we know we're not doing it right. And so
we can start making the correction.
I hope there's some energy going to correcting it, because that's what needs to happen. And again, realizing that we can't just close down every nuclear plant in the state, which we almost did. I think that's a good sign. We'll get there, because after a moment it becomes obvious, right? Because
we have to.
If it's either energy or water, and you're choosing between one or the other, you've done it wrong. You've blown it, and that's
that's where we're at.
Problem, right? That's where it is.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's one of the issues, and then also how we took all that water and how we allocated that water and are overusing it everywhere is a problem too, right? Like we've got to be. I could be better about that.
I could solve some of the issues, but no one would like it. We recently bought an RV.
Yeah.
And it's self-sustained and all. It's got batteries, it's got a solar panel.
Yeah.
But when you're given finite amount of energy, meaning those batteries, and a finite amount of water, you really think twice about, do I need to have the water running when I'm brushing my teeth?
Right.
Because if there's a finite amount, like you have so much in your freshwater tank,
right?
Do I need the light and fans running, or can I just be a little hotter?
Right.
Because I've only got so much power. I think it really made me think, like, and then the solar panel, I was like, oh, this is great. It's trickling into my batteries. Right. So now I understand solar power a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it'd be interesting, like if you told people, here's how much water you get per day, and here's how much electricity you get today. You decide how you want to use it.
Yeah.
So we're not telling you what to do and not to do, but here's what you get. It'd be interesting.
Instead of like the Swiss, I think they make everybody in the country do some military service. This could be like it's the environmental service. Like you're forced to do this. You're forced to live in a tiny house with these restrictions for a year or something.
Yeah, wherever you live, right? I mean, I just saw some celebrities where their water usage was 250,000 gallons over their allowance.
Yeah,
like how much? Do you know how much water that is?
It's absurd. It's absurd.
Oh, by the way, that was for the month of June.
Yeah. Yeah.
250,000 gallons in a month?
Yeah. Well, look, you get wealthy enough and you can just pay the bill, and
that's what they're doing.
You stop caring, right?
That's literally what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, yeah, okay.
Well, and we grow, I don't want to go too much into other problems, but we grow really water intensive crops in the Central Valley. Yeah. I mean, even oranges. I mean, like they require a ton of, like tangerines, I guess, are the big ones. But anyways, that we're growing in our valley. But we should be growing. I mean, we could feed the world with the Central Valley. That's how wonderful and fertile that land is, right? But we really should be, you should be growing things that require a lot of water in places that get a lot of water. You should be, should be growing things that you can grow with the water you have and the space you have where you are. And in California, we need to also catch more of the water, particularly as temperatures kind of rise a little bit and the snowpack gets smaller and smaller. That means that we have, less runoff to use as the year goes, because it all just kind of floods out and goes away. So we do have to, again,
more catch reservoirs.
There's some problems that we have to solve regardless. We've already we've missed the boat on a couple of the places the targets we're hoping to hit in order to kind of reduce the future problem. We've already missed. And so this is one of those things we have to say, okay, well, if we've already missed it, then we need to start thinking about how do we solve it, because technology can solve basically every problem that we're worried about. But we have to start looking at, okay, so how are we going to solve that? If we're not able to keep enough water in these mountains, we need to catch it.
I love the fact that I'm talking to a entertainment industry producer, showrunner about environmentalism. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks for giving me a chance to talk. I really, really appreciate it.
No, so what's the best way for my listeners to find out what you have coming up or going on? Is there the website? Do you have Instagram?
Yeah. So I mean, I would encourage the listeners to go to biofriendlyplanet.com and to check out what we have going there. And then podcast wise, come check us out. We're once a week. That Jacob and I, half the podcast is us cracking jokes back and forth with one another, and then the other half is we teach you something about the environment. So the idea is that it's fun, it's funny. Jacob's a comedian. And like literally that's one of his jobs. And so we have a lot of fun laughing, playing around, and then we also talk about what's going on with the environment. We do it in kind of a more friendly, more I think honest and no nonsense way. So that's called the Biofriendly Podcast, and you can get that iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you like to get podcasts is where you can listen to that one. And we would love to have people listen and enjoy the show.
Heck yeah. Again, appreciate the time. And
absolutely.
I'm looking forward to I'm going to listen to some of the episodes. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts now because I'm usually editing my own, but
sure.
I'll definitely.
Well, maybe when you're on the road, download a couple and have a listen. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Thanks, Noel.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Have a good one.
All right, buddy. You too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.